What is self-care? We're going to find out what that is and how it's sacred and what it's not. For me, food is definitely one of the ways that I practice self-care, what to eat and what not to eat. That's why I brought myself here to Cowboy Surfer Grill, where I love the food and the service, the ambiance. I can't resist to get my tuna melt. My food is here, so I'm going to tuck in. But stick around, we're going to have a chat with Reverend Dr. Patricia Stansfield of St. John's Episcopal Church. Stick around a little longer, you'll see footage of my recent trip to the San Diego Zoo. You'll get to see the giant panda, Shinbao, beautiful Amur leopards, and the Zen poses of the lemurs. Bon appetit! Welcome to this first Lent video. I'm so thankful to be here with the Reverend Dr. Patricia Stansfield of St. John's Episcopal Church in Corona. We met, I think it's been a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago now. There was an iftar dinner at the Muslim Center. The thing was, I had heard quite a bit of buzz about your presence here at the Episcopal Church. You are an excellent speaker, and several people in my congregation had said that you were going to be there, and I was looking forward to meeting you. And so I was glad to be there and have a chance to meet you and other lovely people too. But I want to thank you so much for being here.
Well, thanks.
For joining me in this.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. I have mentioned already, but for this video series, I'm looking at this book by Dr. Chaniqua Walker-Barnes. It's called Sacred Self-Care. In the small group experience, she invites us to start by sharing how we're feeling today as we start out. And I wanted to see if that was something you'd be willing to start with. So how are you feeling today?
The first thing I would say is I'm feeling tired. I had a rough night at home last night with a sick pet. Anyone and any creature that we love that has an impact. Also feeling a little bit overwhelmed as I walked in the door this morning. There's a number of calls and things that I need to attend to, and I just kind of feel like that mountain is building.
Yes. Well, thank you again for taking time for this then, and for sharing how you're doing. I'm very excited about doing this with you. We had a chance to sit with another clergy colleague this morning and have some coffee. So I feel like that's a little bit of self-care to
I think so
sit
too.
and have coffee and chat and
Yep.
hopefully support each other in our ministry.
Absolutely.
So I want to start by sharing a little bit of what Chaniqua says about self-care, what self-care is. In this first week especially, self-care explores myths and understandings about what it is, including the idea that self-care might be, or some people believe, is selfish, materialistic, and a matter of economic privilege. The book that she's written encourages us to view sacred self-care as acts of faithful stewardship and gratitude that stem from our creation in God's image. And Dr. Chaniqua defines sacred self-care as the activities, habits, disciplines, and thought patterns that help us to develop and nurture holistic wellness of beings who are beautifully and wonderfully created by God in God's own image. I'm going to read just a paragraph from her book also. And I'll first say that part of her journey that she shares in the book is as a professor, a psychologist herself, she had experienced kind of burnout when she was trying to take care of work and family and self, and was asked to put on the Thanksgiving dinner for her family. She talks about this in the book more at length, but she did that. She and her partner put on a dinner for about 20 people, and only a few people showed up. And when that happened, she realized that she really needed to change the trajectory for herself in terms of caring for what her needs were. She was feeling very overwhelmed by all of that. So she writes that she embarked on a journey of self-care with a few small changes, with affirmations, daily prayer and meditation, regular exercise, and breaks during her day. She says, within weeks, I felt better physically and emotionally. I felt more secure in my own identity and more connected to other people. But there was an unanticipated benefit. She wrote, I felt more connected to God. It turned out that the more I cared for myself, the more I wanted to serve God in the world. That we are not spirits that are simply housed in bodies. We are our bodies. There can be no spiritual life that does not engage the body. And I wanted to ask you, if you can remember, when was it first that you kind of started hearing about self-care? When did that start for you? What's your point of view on self-care in that regard?
That was very much focused upon in my seminary training. They spoke so much about self-care. There was so much focus on how we would do that throughout our life in ministry. And in a certain way, it felt like it was misplaced because at that time, I was so excited about being in seminary. I had so much energy and was so caught up in the Spirit that it wasn't something that I really understood the connection and why they were talking about it.
Yeah. So for me, that was about 30 years ago. And that's the same. I really hadn't heard much or thought about self-care until seminary.
Mm-hmm.
About how long ago was that for you, if I can ask?
25 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. And so then, of course, that's changed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your general outlook on self-care, if you could put it into a few sentences as you see it for you now?
Especially hearing the passage from the book, there's definitely, growing up, there was a sense that anything that was self-care was considered selfish. I've had to really change my understanding of the need to take care of myself, because when you're not whole, you can't care for anyone else either.
Mm-hmm. It's like, of course, people always say, put your own oxygen mask on first
Absolutely.
before you put on someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole idea about it being selfish, what would you say about that or to that these days for yourself?
These days, I think I've grown beyond that understanding and recognizing that anything that that others deserve, that I deserve that as well. There's a difference between self-care and selfishness and self-indulgence. Those things are all different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like how she says it in her book. Self-care is not selfish. It's not about being exclusively focused upon our own needs, pleasure, and well-being without consideration or regard of others, which is how dictionaries define selfishness. Mm-hmm. When we recognize ourself as a sacred gift of God, who is meant to be in relationship with other beings who are also wonderfully and beautifully made in the image of God, self-care becomes a fulfillment of the second part of the Great Commandment, love your neighbor as yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And so she writes, self-care is self-love. Mm-hmm. If you would say a little bit about how you do, or if you do, self-care these days in your work and in your personal life.
So some of the things that I do that are meaningful to me, when it comes to the church, I do feel like the mom in a certain way. Yep. And whenever there's an event going on, I'll always be the last one to eat, to make sure that everybody who has attended is getting enough, that there's enough for everyone. And I feel good about that. I feel fine about that. I don't worry about missing out or anything like that. But what I did learn is that there then became this movement that when we celebrate communion, that the priest and the servers would receive last after everyone else, as emulating this being the servant of all. But I went through a period where I had run myself down. I had just given too much and was too worn out, and I realized at that point that I always need to take care of myself first so that I can take care of others. And for me, that became the moment that I decided it would always be important to me that when I'm celebrating communion, that I have communion first. Because if I'm not spiritually, emotionally, and physically nourished, I can't serve others.
Well, thank you again so much.
My pleasure.
I really enjoyed talking with you, but more getting to know you. And it's so nice that we're so close here in Corona, our churches.
Yep, for sure.
That we have ways to help each other out through the
Thanks.
season. So,
And wishing you and the people at your church blessed and holy Lent and all the new life and joy of the resurrection.
thank you again. Many blessings.
Thanks, you're welcome.
Thanks.
Casey and Coriana are at the ends of the picture.
Alright, Beaver said that's enough. Yeah, she did. She rocked it. Actually, the Beaver's pretty new. She's only been coming out to the stage a handful of times. This is maybe the third or fourth time she's been out here with public. But she's rocked it.
Oh, look at that, buddy. Hang on. Is he a big guy? Yeah, I gotta go see him. Oh, he's big guy. Oh my god. That's insane. That's insane.